And I'm awaiting Megan Murphy here. So just gonna chat, and I can't get my thing set up. Everything isn't working the way that I want it to. I don't know. I have a fancy camera, but I don't know if Skype is gonna accept it into its digestive system. And now I'm hearing myself, but not where I want to. Hold on just a second. I am awaiting Megan Murphy. Okay, we'll pause that. And then we're going to go over to here. Sorry, this is so topsy-turvy. Hey, 13 eyes of fondness. So we're just waiting for Megan Murphy here, and then we're going to have the Megan Murphy here. And then I'm going to have to switch over to Skype, and I don't know if that's going to work. How do I sound? Am I blowing out the speakers? Hey, Little Toe. Hey, Deep Purple. Hey, Louis. I'm sorry that you're in the wrong time zone, Louis. We will collectively, mourn your ill time, the bad time that you have with time. Night, Louis. So Megan should join, and then we're going to have some hitches and stuff. This is just a live stream with Megan Murphy, who I think I can call my friend now because we have friendly time together on the internet platform of YouTube, not on the internet platform of Twitter, because this poor soul named JY, who we can't call anything other than JY, because if you call him anything other than JY, then he knows who that you're speaking to him, because he's got ears everywhere. He's like a master of social media and beauty pageants, of all things, experiencing what do they call it, wardrobe malfunctions, or maybe a plan malfunction in city council meetings. I didn't want to do any more videos on him because it's such a sad case. And I don't necessarily do the YouTube for the LOLZ, right? I do it for, kind of nuanced discussion. Well, sometimes I do it for the lulz, as you guys know. But anyways, he showed up to a city council meeting proposing to teach youth about the, the necessity of having information about being LGBTQIA. They should do a YMCA song with the LGBTQ etc. Thing where the dancers keep on making all these letters and then eventually pass out from frustration or low blood sugar, because it just keeps on going on and on. It's like a 99 bottles of beer on the wall, or this is the song that never ends on the wall thing. But it's all these people making like those like flagger letters, things. I'm sorry, the people in the LGBT plu. I meant that not as a misstep of pronunciation, but actually in the French word of meaning plus or more. The LGBT plus community, who I deeply love and respect, actually have a sense of humor. So I don't really mean to mock those people at all. I'm not a Crowder. And I do have a cup, but it's a dainty ass sippy cup. It's a Frenchy sippy cup. It's not like a toddler sippy cup, but it's like a sippy cup for the French, because now I have this espresso machine, which I mentioned at the very end of my last live stream. So again, I know I have post-coital live streaming hair because I really need a haircut, but my barber is in town and I just never make it into town because I come back here and I bitch about a public liberal arts college to wide praise and applause on the internet domain of YouTube and elsewhere. It's kind of weird. We're still just waiting for Megan Murphy. What's kind of weird, I just want to say what's kind of weird is that it's really weird knowing that there are people who are paid more or less to watch your YouTube videos. Like there's this marketing department at Evergreen whose job now is to watch my videos because they need to know what I'm talking about Evergreen so they can counter it somehow. So there's people that are actually paid to watch my channel. It's just kind of creepy and weird. But I mean, I guess that's just the domain. Once you get to a certain level of very local notoriety, it's such a small bubble, then I guess there's just weird things that happen like that. I should respond to some of the chattiness on the chat stream over here, and we're gonna see if there are any people. Oh, here we go. Alex Gibson is here in real time for once because she has insomnia. Oh, congrats on the driving test. And I love your little shiny dog creature there. That's a beautiful little puppy there, Alex. Congrats on your driving test. I hope that you maintain safety upon the road, and welcome to the wonderful world of being pissed off about other people who are riding around in their tin cans. I hope that you are able to manage your road rage appropriately and with a creative flair. Not to tout my own horn, or I don't honk my horn, and I don't want to cuss because I drive a bus that's filled with impressionable young minds of such a constitution that they don't really understand my language. But I end up singing songs about the people in the road that I encounter. So that's the one thing. Hey, Gene, I miss you too. I want to swing by. I have all these literary things that I want to plop down on the desk and walk through the campus like I don't know anything and people don't know me. I do have to visit the public records department because they are now completely ignoring my requests for more information, which is technically illegal. And I'm going to have to use some of that glorious YouTube money, all $1,300 that I've earned from YouTube to get a lawyer to actually cause the college to act in a manner that they should. Behold. But Gene, I miss you. I miss you too. I miss Mindy too. I miss having those little passive aggressive interactions. I mean, there wasn't aggressiveness between us. We were passive aggressive about other things, but that was a wonderful time. I spent 4.5 years at Evergreen, and for the last 2, I spent, I guess, 3 or 4 hours a day in that library. I had this little room with paper thin walls, and I promised that at some point when I earned my keep as a human being, I would donate to the Evergreen State Library soundproofing material for those study rooms, so you don't have to listen to the other person in the other room doing a Skype call where you're trying to compose a masterpiece of Western literature to avail or no avail. But I'm not saying that I composed one. I'm just saying I tried to, and I guess I should attempt to try to. Anyways, Gene, wonderful people. There's a lot of wonderful people at Evergreen. A lot of absolutely excellent, wonderful people at Evergreen. It's just the narrative's controlled by people who I disagree with and maybe disagree with other wonderful people at Evergreen. Anyways, it's really unfortunate that this college is suffering the way it is, and I'm trying to pivot myself as a voice about Evergreen to serve people at Evergreen who deserve more than they're getting out of the whole Evergreen situation. So again, I'm going to have to text Meghan Murphy because I promised everybody on Twitter that Meghan Murphy would... Oh, she is ready. So I guess I should have just contacted her or told her to Meghan Murphy. And for some reason, hold on, sorry about the audio. Why are you not working? Here we go.
Hello.
Hey, Meghan.
Hi.
Look at you. We're going to have to split this screen. You talk to the people while I fix the audio.
Okay. I don't... It was obviously way too much. I'm like...
I will fix your audio too.
I usually think that I'm a good conversationalist, but this is so much pressure.
People are asking for your hair's wonderful, you're symmetrically oriented, and I'm not on the screen at all, so I need to figure out how to do that. And how do I do this?
Well, in the meantime, everyone, this is Emma.
Camera. You can name your dog. Wait.
Emma. She's chosen to be in the live chat today, so you can ask her questions also.
Can you see me?
She knows all sorts of things about my personal life, so.
Wait, she witnesses all sorts of things in your personal life?
She said she knows all sorts of things about my personal life, because she's like here in my apartment with me all the time watching me cry over men.
Oh, no.
Just comfort me.
Have you forced her to sign a non-disclosure agreement about your relationships?
Pretty open here.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're open everywhere or
No
just in your
secrets
apartment?
here. No, just in general as a person.
Really?
I think so. Do you not agree? Do you
I
think
mean,
that I'm incredibly private and secretive?
well,
I mean, I get it's not like I'm like all over the internet with all my business. I
yeah,
just I I like to be as open as I possibly can.
that's a good thing. I just need to. I need to. I'm having technical difficulties here, and I just need to ask the chat if they can hear me.
Can
Can
you hear
you
us, chat?
hear us?
It's a bit windy here, but I can't close my window because it's too hot in my apartment. So
And
we're
Skype
just gonna
guest.
take
How do you
it.
do Skype split screen? I'm gonna have to look up a way to solve this issue. So, do you want to talk about your lawsuit? Are you able to talk about that? You want to fill people in on your lawsuit? And I guess preface, what is your lawsuit about?
Well, it's very boring. Well, I guess it's not boring. I know that other people. I mean, right now it's boring because there's nothing happening. We're just waiting for a judge to make a decision about whether or not it will proceed. So, I mean, I think that we talked about the lawsuit already on another video, but I guess essentially I was permanently banned from Twitter for calling a man he. As far as I know, Twitter has never really like told me what actual rule I broke. So I can only guess. Um, but the tweet that I was permanently banned for said, yeah, it's him about this guy who decided that he now identifies as a trans woman or as a woman. Although at the time he still was using his male name on social media, so who knows? And yeah, so the tweet said, yeah, it's him. And it was in response to a blogger had revealed his real identity and revealed that he was like a pretty litigious guy and had revealed some other kind of, maybe, I guess, sort of incriminating information about him. And I said, is it true that so and so, so and so? And then I got confirmation via a screenshot of an online review that this guy had left online with his name and face in it. So I tweeted the screenshot and said, yeah, it's him. And then I was banned for life.
Oh,
And now I don't get to tweet. Anyway, so we decided to sue Twitter for essentially false advertising because they've advertised themselves as like a free speech platform, and they've like committed to not banning people for ideological or political reasons, blah blah blah, and also because they broke their own rules in regards to they're supposed to notify their users if they change the rules. They're supposed to give us
hmm.
30 days notice, and they're not supposed to apply those rules retroactively. So since then, Twitter responded with an anti-slap motion, which I don't understand that well, but my lawyers
Wait,
have explained
what's a
it to me.
slat mean? Is that
Slap,
a.
slap.
Oh,
I yeah,
okay.
SLAPP. I assume
Oh,
that it's an acronym for something. Yeah, extra slap. It's a particularly violent slap.
oh, ouch.
Anyway, it's a law that exists to protect journalists from being sued by big corporations. So it exists to protect this free speech of journalists so that like if they report critically on a big company, the company can't just sue them for libel and silence them essentially. So Twitter's taken that law and applied it to them as though I'm impeding their free speech. Like I'm going to
Huh.
follow Jack Dorsey around the internet trying to sue him every time he says something because I totally have the money to do that. And that's totally the kind of thing that I would do.
That is
So
absolutely
anyway, they're
fascinating.
misusing this law in like an incredibly unethical, manipulative way. And now we're just waiting to hear what the judge says about it. So if the judge determines that that's legit or not, and if he determines that it is legit, that they can use the law in that way, then the suit ends. And if he determines that it's not legit, then it continues. But yeah, it's pretty messed up.
So, you guys are suing an American company as Canadians? Is there like weird
Oh, well, my
international law?
lawyers are American and they're suing
Oh,
out of
okay.
California.
And it doesn't matter that you are in another country? Okay.
No.
Interesting. So this has the possibility to actually start to hammer out new realms of the landscape of communication and how it's happening right now. So it might form precedent.
Yeah, and on how accountable Twitter has to be to its users and to the population in general. I mean, because I mean, of course, the reality is that Twitter has a huge impact on discourse, on politics,
Yeah.
on everything, but it sort of pretends as though it doesn't, and I don't think it's really fair for them to pretend any longer that, this is just a social media platform and we can do whatever we want,
Yeah.
and if we decide to ban people for ideological or political reasons, that's our own prerogative. Like, it's just too big at this point, right?
Yeah. 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 Interesting. So you're like caught in the crosshairs, but you've been busy doing other things too. And you kind
Yeah,
of, I guess this has kind of
working.
influenced you. Has this influenced you a little bit, like in the way of how you're going about the work that you did before you got banned from Twitter?
Well, I mean, obviously, I have to rely on other platforms to
Hmm.
communicate with my audience and to communicate with other journalists and writers and to share my work and whatnot, which is frustrating because, like, I'm independent, right? So
Yeah.
I work for myself, so it's totally my own responsibility and to promote my work and to communicate with my audience and stuff like that. And so I've had to, like, start a public Facebook page and start a public Instagram page, which I'm not that into social media, to be honest.
But you're a communicator.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like to communicate. I did like Twitter as a platform, to be honest. Like, I think a lot of people say that they hate Twitter, but I like Twitter.
Yeah, I
So
kind
I
of
was
like it
like
too. Yeah.
sad when I was when I was banned from Twitter because I don't really like using Facebook that much. I find it quite limiting in terms of the people that you're able to reach and communicate with.
Twitter,
No,
really?
Facebook. Did I
Oh
say
yeah,
Twitter?
Facebook. Yeah. No,
Sorry.
I'm
Facebook I find
juggling with.
limiting.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find
Facebook's
Twitter,
weird.
and I just don't like the way that the algorithms work on Facebook. I just find that, I don't have access to the kinds of people and information that I want to. No matter how much I try to tweak my algorithm, I just
Yeah.
kind of see the same thing over and over and over and over again, which sort of implies to me that my audience or other people are also seeing the same thing over and over and over again. So who even knows who I'm reaching? So it just
Yeah.
seems like Twitter is sort of a more wide-reaching platform, and it's where I would go to, find out what's going on,
Yeah.
essentially, and to get the facts, really. Like, if something's happening and you're trying to confirm information, Twitter can actually be a good way to do that.
Yeah, I've been able to sculpt a much clearer internet presence through Twitter just because I get to make statements that then get more play than I do on Facebook. Facebook's just really limited in
It is really
just it's all
limited.
it's this I guess it's facsimile of like a real cafe situation or so. They're trying to recreate a social network that kind of is modeled on like how you actually interact with people, and so
Yeah.
it's just this weird bad mix of everything worse about real life and the internet put together is like Facebook in a way.
Well, I don't want to talk to the same people over and over and over again. Like, I don't want to only talk to people who already agree with me or already like me or already
Huh.
know me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like people have to be following you and engaged with you already,
Yeah.
which sort of would say on Facebook, would that they kind of are already into you. And I feel
Yeah.
like on Twitter, you're able to reach a much more diverse, wider audience and communicate with a more diverse, wider audience as
On
a
that
result.
note, I just want full disclosure. I roofied myself about 20 minutes ago, so that should be kicking in, and I won't know who I'm talking about any moment now, so it might just like restart the whole
Oh,
conversation.
fun. So this is like a party live chat.
Yeah, it's
Should
totally
I find
party
some
life.
drugs to take also?
Well,
I think I have some extra codeine lying around and who knows what else.
Canadian codeine.
Just
That
joking,
stuff
I
is
do know what
wonderful.
else.
So I just want
I was
to.
just gonna say it out loud.
Well, you are on the other side of the border, so nothing can happen to you doing this. Um, I want to let
Yeah,
everybody know
never
who's
occurred to
watching.
me. I was like, oh right, drugs are illegal. It's like, what do you mean? What? Okay, sorry. Anyway.
No, I'm looking for question marks because we have a live chat. So I want to open it up to the chat. If you guys have any questions, just plug them in and use a couple of question marks at the end of your statement so I know they're a question. and then I will allow people to communicate with Meghan Murphy if they have any questions for you. I did have a question. I spoke with Ken Zucker a
Yeah.
few weeks ago, and he didn't comment on this, but he said that you in this panel, you said that you didn't have any gender. You just
No, I
had a.
said I didn't have a gender identity.
Oh, okay, that's
I
different.
said I didn't have a gender. Well, I mean, I don't think that anybody has a like. So I see gender as a personality. Like gender is like a collection of roles and personality traits and likes and dislikes and
Okay.
like what kind of clothing you wear, stuff like that. So I just see it as personality, really.
Okay.
So when I say I don't have a gender identity, it's like I don't identify with everything that femininity encapsulates. So I don't identify with all of those roles and stereotypes that are
Yeah.
under the femininity umbrella.
Yeah, but you don't mind being gendered as a she or a her, so you're fine
Well, I
with
see
the
that. I
label.
mean, I don't, but I see that as being sexed. Like people recognize me as female, so they call me she,
Okay. But
right?
yeah, but
I don't really see the
automatically.
point of gender, to be honest. Like, what's the difference between like what's wrong with just sex and then letting people have the personalities and likes that they want to have and wear what they want to wear? Like, what's the point of gender?
Well, I think the point of gender is that by basically designating somebody as having a female sex, then every female sex person that you interact with is going to accrue an accumulative kind of
Sorry, I'm just gonna close my window. Okay.
accumulative, not stereotype in a negative sense, but just this kind of model of what a woman is, not what a woman should be, but over the course of your life, as you identify and interact with female entities, you're going to start to get this understanding of what the female is, both in how you react to it and how they react to you. And then that will be overlaid on half the population because there is this dimorphism that then accrues and then is crudely reprojected onto culture by various ways of speaking about it, various artistic products and cultural products and stuff like that, and then trappings. And then there's the whole thing with the access that specifically the female has to becoming pregnant and then to mothering, which has a very powerful impact on our psyches, on the life of a woman, but on the psyche of every single person who is given birth to and then nurtured by a woman will automatically attach a certain number of very powerful archetypal kind of fluencies to how they interact with the woman.
Sure. But I mean, I guess then we're again talking about like assumptions and stereotypes
But that's how the
and
brain operates.
roles.
That's how
But
the
that's
brain
fine. I'm
operates.
just saying that I mean, I still don't understand
Hmm.
why we need to talk about femininity and masculinity or talk about gender at all when we
Hmm.
could just be talking about womanhood or women or
Oh, okay.
females.
Oh, what? How do you talk about?
Unless we're talking about the stereotypes or roles, and then I mean, we are saying then we're talking about gender roles and gender stereotypes and
Yeah.
ideas associated with gender and what it means to be a woman and whatnot and stuff like what you're talking about. But as far as like,
Hmm.
do I need to identify with femininity or not? I mean, who cares?
Okay. Yeah, for sure. But at the same time, you find that womanhood is sacred. And by sacred, I mean it's something that should be approached with a certain level of meaning. It has a certain meaning.
Sure.
It should be protected. And a lot of your feminism is about protecting womanhood or cultivating an understanding of womanhood that's respectful towards it. Is that correct or not?
It's about protecting women as a class of people and
Yeah.
understanding that I mean females do play a certain role in society, of course, because women are the ones who can give birth,
Yeah.
and can get pregnant.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we have different bodies, and therefore we have different lives than men do in some ways. So, and we're treated differently as a result, and men are
Mm.
treated differently because they're male.
Hmm.
I mean, treated differently than women are. So,
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, understanding that and protecting people from discrimination based on their sex and the assumptions that come along with that. Like assuming like women have historically been discriminated against because they were thought to be, more delicate or more irrational or too emotional for certain roles for public life, things like that.
Yeah.
That's gender, those kinds of assumptions and stereotypes. So
Hmm.
protecting women from discrimination on that basis for example, from saying like, well, women can't be engaged in politics, they can't be politicians because they can't handle it because they're too sensitive or too delicate or too irrational.
Are you equating gender as a term only with the negative aspects of the stereotypes of the
No,
sexes?
because all things attached to femininity and masculinity aren't negative. Some things are
Okay.
good, some things are bad, some things are neutral.
Okay. So when you're gender critical, then you're critical the assignment and the enforcement of certain sorts of behavior based on one's sex.
Yeah, or saying that people are limited to certain roles. I don't use the term gender critical to be honest, but I just use the term feminism. But
Okay.
I know that lots of feminists do, and that's fine.
Okay.
Um,
As
and I mean,
opposed
I
to
guess
other
I
brands
am
of sexual
critical of
identity.
gender. I just see
Okay.
that as sort of inherent to the
Hmm.
feminist analysis that you would be critical of those stereotypes and
Okay.
roles. So I see it, I guess, as sort of redundant.
There's a friend of mine, self-made woman, who's self-made woman on Twitter,
Oh, okay.
Lady
I was like,
RGOP.
what's a self-made woman?
Well, there's a story there that's pretty intense. But she's male to female transgender, and she wants to ask how can she help as a pro. I don't know what 1A. I'm going to put this on the screen. It says 1A MTF. So this is somebody who is reckons with the reality of her biological male sex and is transitioned to female. And she's pretty pro female rights, and she wants to know, as somebody who's transitioned, how can she help, or how do you think that she could help?
Well, I mean, I guess one way would be to stick up for women's spaces. So to say yes, regardless of transition, like I have transitioned, I'm transsexual, however they identify. But that doesn't mean that I'm literally female, and I still believe that females should have access to certain spaces that are for females only. Not all, I mean, there's not even that many spaces that we're talking about here. We're talking about spaces where women are particularly vulnerable:
Yeah.
change rooms, transition houses, prisons, locker rooms,
Maybe we'll get in
bathrooms.
trouble if we're talking about Auger, Morgaine Auger, up in
Oh God,
Vancouver.
dude, he would love it. He's a narcissist. Oh, never mind.
But this person celebrated getting a
Loves to be
rapes.
talked about, I'll tell you that.
Okay, yeah. Well, this is really interesting because JY and Morgan have had this huge falling out on Twitter. It's very public. It's very interesting.
It's because Morgan wants to get back into politics and he's trying to protect his reputation.
Oh, back
So all
in.
of a sudden he's like, "Ooh, this is gonna look bad. I should distance myself from
Okay,
this."
and
It's my personal opinion.
at the end of that, in the comments, Morgaine blamed women for JY's behavior. It was so
Well,
crazy.
clearly, he blames women for everything. I
And
know
yet,
it's so twisted, right? It was like it's the turfs. It's like, wait, how? How is it feminists' fault that this dude is going after women and feminists were the only one trying to like ring the bell, like
yeah,
raise the alarm about this guy and be like, hey, this is not cool. And we're trying to talk about it and we're getting banned off Twitter for it, but it's somehow our fault that he's
yeah,
getting away with this or whatever.
it's really weird. And but what I wanted to bring up was that Morgan celebrated the closing of a rape shelter. And your point is that women's spaces, there's not a lot of them. They're where women are particularly vulnerable. What is it that would make somebody want to celebrate the invasion of these spaces?
I mean, not only did he celebrate it, but he was the one who kind of instigated that.
Yeah.
He was the one who, he brought a bunch of trans activists to city council to advocate to, get the city to cancel this grant that Rape Relief had been getting for some time now, a $30,000 grant. I think he has a vendetta against Vancouver Rape Relief because they won't toe the line.
Hmm.
You know, people people who are bullies like want people to go along with what they want them to go along with, and he's trying to push people to go along with his narrative to, repeat after me: trans women are women, trans women are women. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to respect women's boundaries. He doesn't want other men to have to respect women's boundaries, and he just can't stand it that they've stood strong on this and maintained their position that women do need certain spaces where men aren't allowed, particularly when they're escaping male violence against or male violence and are recovering from abuse and sexual assault. I mean, I think it's a real, I really think that a lot of this is about male entitlement. It's like, how dare you say no to me?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
by male entitlement, I just, I don't know if that's like a trigger word for you.
No, no, I was just thinking about that. What do you mean by
Like,
that?
I don't mean all men are entitled, but I think that there are men in, like, I think that men are socialized to sort of um, feel entitled to access certain spaces. And
Hmm.
I think that there's some men who really don't like it when women say no to them or when anyone says no to them.
Yeah.
To say, no, you can't do this. No, you can't come in here. No, you can't dominate this conversation. You can't dominate this space.
So how do you deal with somebody who is in that mode of domination? And to be fair, everybody, regardless of sex, there are people who are like that. Now,
I mean,
whether or not they can get away with it, it might be socially constructed, but
I
I've run
mean,
into plenty of people from all over the gender map.
I mean,
But
it's tough. I think it's tough to deal with on a personal level
hmm,
because if one person says no and then everyone else says, okay, okay, sure, like you can do this. We don't want to fight with you. Like we don't want to be bullied or we don't want this conflict or we don't want to like deal with the wrath of saying no to you, then it sort of doesn't really work. And so, we're saying no. There's feminists, there's women who are saying no, like no, we're not going along with this. No, we're not going to pretend that you're female. No, you can't access these spaces. No, you can't destroy these spaces that women need just because they aren't participating in your cult or your ideology or whatever.
hmm,
But then when all these politicians, which they are, here in Canada, the NDP, which is our leftist party, and the Liberals too, are really just going along with this. In particular, the leftist parties really are just like, okay, like they have not stood up for women in any way at all, and in fact, in many cases, have vilified those of us who are trying to talk about this and trying to push back against this and are supporting um, women-only spaces. And this guy is a vice president of the BC NDP too, and they've not done anything to try to curb his behavior, which I think has been quite appalling and quite out of line on Twitter. Like he really has been harassing and obsessing over
hmm.
certain women, including me. I mean, constant tweeting about these women, like writing blog posts, constant slander, constant libel, constant smearing, just like a level of obsession that makes me feel uncomfortable, to be honest.
It seems like we are in the era of the bully. The bully is winning right now across all these different areas with regards to the way that certain radical trans rights activists are bullying women.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of behavior is replicated in all these various domains. I don't know if Gamergate's a trigger for you, but like it was originally sparked by the infiltration of people wanting to force an agenda into this very niche little gaming or the gaming realm and start to enforce their sorts of ideologies into that. But it's been replicated over and over and over again. It seems like with another mass banning happening on YouTube, it all comes down to these reporters at Vox taking this bully tactic of rousing a mob to shut people down that they don't like with accusations of hate speech or harmful speech and stuff like that.
Right. I didn't
Which
follow that all that much that closely, so you might have to fill me in. I did read an article in the Times today about YouTube suddenly deciding to shut down a bunch of accounts, but I don't know who got shut down exactly.
it's not necessarily. I don't know all the details of this particular case, but it happens. It seems like every about 5 months or so, one major platform, Twitter, Patreon was in December. YouTube's
Yeah.
done this several times now. Reacts to a very small, very vocal minority that's
Yeah.
calling out that we're being bullied. We're being bullied. You need to go around and shut everybody else down. And it just happens over and over again. It seems
Yeah.
like the corporations are beholden to some sort of weird calculus where they decide that this very small crowd that sometimes we can call woke or the social justice warriors or it always comes in different guise because it's a different group encroaching on another group's space. And I'm not equating at all gaming with rape shelters. I'm not making that equivalence. I'm making the equivalence between the bully that wants to infiltrate the rape shelter with the bully that wants to infiltrate this other cultural aspect. It seems like the bullies are winning, and it seems like something's wrong with the game itself.
Well, yeah, so it seems to me like there's a small minority of people and there's sort of social justice warrior groups or activist groups or identity groups um, who are controlling the narrative, and everyone's really scared of them. And I'm been looking into this recently because I was trying to figure out why. So I was in the UK recently doing some talks, and I got tons of media coverage over there, like the BBC and the
Really?
Sunday Times and some Scottish media, the Scotsman, and a bunch of other places. And in general, in the UK, they've been covering the debate around gender identity quite well, in my opinion, in like a pretty fair way. They've, been covering the fact that there's feminist pushback and there's pushback on the left and there's pushback in all sorts of places. And I was like, why, like in Canada, they won't touch this issue. They won't even acknowledge that there's a debate, right? They just cover it in a really celebratory way. Like it's like, yay, trans kids, yay, like trans rights. And it's this really non-critical coverage. They won't acknowledge that I exist. They won't acknowledge that there's any feminist critique of gender identity. They'll sort of sometimes acknowledge that there's pushback from like the Christian right. So they'll only accept the framing that this is a left versus right issue. So it's the good progressive people versus the bad bigots. This is their framing. And even in January when we did an event at the Vancouver Public Library about gender identity and women's rights, the media was sort of finally forced to cover it a little bit because of all the protests and all the efforts to get the library to cancel the event, and because the library released a public statement and things like that. And the CBC, which is our public broadcaster, still wouldn't talk to the organizers or me or any of the other panelists about the actual event. And the one time that they did cover it on CBC radio was to hold a panel where they talked about what might happen at the event and what I might say and whether or not that might construe hate speech, but they didn't invite me to be on the panel. And they didn't even come to the event. And the CBC is located right across the street from the Vancouver Public Library, so they couldn't even bring themselves to walk across the street to show up to see what was happening. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? Like, why in the UK are they covering this? Like, I live in Canada. I'm accessible. Like, I've been on the CBC before. Like, they have my phone number. And
do you have any theories of why?
Well, I have some theories and I have some knowledge because been talking to some people about it. But essentially, there's this diversity committee, which sounds really creepy to me. Like that sounds like 1984-ish, right?
That's what I've been covering. Yep.
The diversity committee at the CBC, and everyone who works at the CBC is terrified of them. And they're not all like news people. They're just people who, like, if you screw up, will force you to come in front of this tribunal of like 100 people while they tear you apart and accuse you of whatever it is, racism, sexism, bad politics, essentially, like not politically correct politics. And these people kind of just plot to take people down. It's like the social justice warriors on Twitter, but actually working
enshrined
at the
by the
broadcaster, and they have control over who reports what. So they won't even talk to somebody who's like a bad guy, i.e. me, because that'll destroy their careers. Because in speaking to me, they'll be called to account by this diversity committee.
That is so messed up.
Yeah. And I think more broadly in Canadian media, they're all just scared of these really small kind of activist groups.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of your funding, didn't Trudeau give out $500 million or want to support the public broadcasting system? And then, of course, with that support,
I support the public broadcasting system. Okay. I support the CBC. But like this is, I mean, I've been listening to the CBC since I was a kid, and I've stopped listening to it lately because it's so fucking annoying.
Weird.
Because their coverage is so politically correct and like so biased and with certain issues. And
Issues that now hit pretty close to home for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, other issues too. Like,
Yeah.
I just find it quite boring, right? Like,
Hmm.
you're not going to talk to the other side, or you're gonna have like these super biased conversations about some issues and neglect to acknowledge or address the other sides. There's always more than one side.
Well, speaking with the other side, one of the commenters has asked, and this was a while ago, so we've moved on from this conversation, but I'm going to go back to it. Can men have their own spaces too? Honestly, just very curiously, what about male only spaces? What are your thoughts on that?
That's fine. I'm not against men having their own spaces.
What would be the funnest male space that you would want to peek into if you were given the right to be as creepy as you wanted?
Like,
That's my
the
question.
only male space that I would ever want to be in would be like the bar. So if you decided to have like a man only bar, but I don't even think I'd want to go to a man only bar because I assume that it would be gross and there'd be like strippers there. It's like, you guys want a man only bar so you can act like dickbags. So
Okay.
I don't want to go there.
So you're fine with male only spaces, but you would never want to go there because you would assume
I mean,
that
where else? What male space would I want to be in? Like, I guess if it was like a cool bar and there
like a
was like a
racquetball
really
court
great
or
whiskey
something.
selection
Okay.
and they
Like
were all
like
having fun without me,
patriarchy
then yeah, I would want to come.
central.
Or if all
Yeah.
my
Okay.
friends were there, I'd be like, why are you guys all hanging out without me? Like, I want to come too. Then I would be mad. That's happened to me before. I'm like, why can't I come? They're like, because it's like a bachelor party. I'm like, okay, I'm fun. Like, what are you
You
guys
are
gonna
fun.
talk about that I can't hear about? Like, why do men want to hang out without women? What are they gonna do?
Okay. Well,
What's
why do?
Now
Okay.
I'm getting defensive. I'm like, why am I being excluded? Why am I not invited to the
You're
party?
you're totally pulling it,
It's because it's
Morgan
happened
Ogre
to me
now.
before, and I'm like, and I was like, boys' night. Why
I
can't
love
I
it.
come? Tell me.
Well, okay. Well,
This
let's be serious.
literally happened to me last week, so I'm
Okay.
feeling sensitive about it.
Well, now you know how Morgan feels about like being denied access to a rape shelter.
Oh yeah, totally the same thing. It's so fun at the rape shelter. He's missing out. Like, no,
Hmm.
that doesn't make any sense at all. I just want to come and hang out and have a nice time. I'm not trying to like force myself. I mean, I was gonna say I'm not trying to force myself where I'm not where I wanted and making
But
people
I
feel
will.
safe. Maybe these men felt like I was gonna make them feel unsafe and they couldn't talk about their real true feelings if I was gonna be there because I would judge them or
Okay.
I would dominate the conversation and ruin it for everyone.
Okay, Megan. There's this scale that I want to use, and up here is outrage, and down here is pout rage, and you've just expressed your pout rage. It was very adorable.
Outing. I'm just
Your pout rage. I'm so sorry.
I just want an explanation.
Why don't you want me around?
And you happen to be there, so I'm looking to you to explain this to me.
I don't know why men want to be alone with other men. I've done that
I
before.
bet you do. Tell me. I bet you
Just
do know.
to blow things up, I guess, is more about the women not wanting to be there than
No,
us
I've
not
already
want.
said I wanted to be invited.
Okay,
I've already told you that I feel left out and excluded. So,
Megan, hold on,
and
Megan. I got reamed out by our last conversation because you asked me for relationship advice about like how
and
to
I
treat.
also would like some relationship advice, but we can get to that later.
Well, okay, you explicitly you explicitly asked me about your relationship with your boyfriend and talking, and I'm like, well, I was just fielding ideas, and then I had a bunch of commenters come in like, why are you giving her advice, why are you mansplaining to her, and I'm like, she asked for my opinion, and it
Well, I
feels like
guess
it's
they don't want your
entrapment.
opinion, but
They don't want my opinion.
I still want your opinion, I guess. I
I
don't know
don't.
if I'll take it seriously or not, but it's good to know. I'll take like a wide range of opinions and then choose the one I like the best.
um okay, the only question that I can see is something about strippers. What are your thoughts on strippers?
My thoughts on men who go to strip clubs is that those men are assholes I don't know that I have a particular opinion on strippers. I mean, they're just trying to make a living. But I think that it's kind of weird to go to a bar with a bunch of other men to ogle naked women.
Hmm. Do you understand it? Do you understand why? I mean,
I think it makes them feel masculine. I think it's good for their egos. Think it makes them feel powerful to go to a place where
hmm.
women are paid to pay attention to them who wouldn't otherwise pay attention to them,
What about
who are
somebody who
forced to
doesn't?
objectify for them, and they get to sit around and be like, "Ugh."
Well, I mean, I just wonder. I understand this position that you're expressing, but I wonder if you can understand like a more sympathetic view of a man who doesn't have the skills, who doesn't have the
That's
skills.
Yeah, but there's men with skills who go to strip clubs.
Okay,
Like there's
well,
men who are very successful, charming, or maybe not charming, but successful, powerful men who, there's dudes with like girlfriends and wives go to strip clubs all the time. Like what is your argument is that they're lonely or they can't meet women? Like I don't think that's true. I don't think that's like a legit argument.
okay. No, I'm not. I'm not taking that position. I'm wondering if you have any sympathy for a man who uh, can't engage with females other than through a monetary transaction. If you would understand the man who has certain inabilities to interact with a woman outside of a defined situation like that.
I just don't think that's the case for most men who go to strip clubs or see prostitutes.
Hmm.
I think that most men who see go to strip clubs or see prostitutes are just kind of regular guys who aren't socially like I don't know, limited in any way.
Mm-hmm. And
I think
and
that I mean and I think that would be kind of depressing. Like if you were a man who couldn't meet women or felt like you couldn't talk to women and then you went to a strip club and you had to pay some woman who obviously didn't like you or care about you and wasn't really interested in you to pay attention to you. Like that wouldn't make me feel good. That would make me feel bad
hmm.
if I had to pay a man to pay attention to me. It wouldn't make me feel like that was like a legitimate interaction or that we were building a legitimate like relationship.
Hmm.
It
What
would just be fake, which would make me feel worse.
do you think that there are women who not monetarily but in other ways pay men to pay attention to them? Like do other things to exchange for male attention? Like a
I mean,
simulacra of sexual
like because
attention?
they have bad personalities. I don't know, maybe they should be more interesting if they feel like they have to manipulate men into paying attention to them.
Huh. So how do
Like
you get men's attention then? Like just as
through my
advice.
personality.
Okay. Let's say
Like
we're talking
I
to let's just say you're talking to like your 14-year-old
But
niece.
okay. So, like, if a woman or a young woman is feeling like she needs to get attention, male attention through self-objectification, so she needs to wear really skimpy clothes and like have her tits out or whatever, and act like play up her femininity or her sexuality or whatever to get male attention. I think because I've done that before, so I can try to treat your question without making jokes about it. I can try to treat it fairly. But I think in the long term, that's bad for women's self-esteem. Like, I feel like that kind of attention is short-lived and superficial and doesn't really make you feel like you're of worth.
Hmm.
Because that kind of attention doesn't gain you real respect. It doesn't gain you real male friends. It doesn't gain you partners who respect you. I think it's temporary, and I think that men will treat you in a specific way if they think that all you are is a sexual object.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and I think that you need more. Like you need your own self-worth. You need to have skills. You need to feel good about yourself. You need to feel like you're interesting and engaging and a worthy person in order to have self-esteem. And, just being sexually attractive temporarily until you age out of it or whatever doesn't build self-esteem at all and is
Mm.
going to make you feel way worse when you start aging out of it and you're not getting that same attention. You're like, oh, now I just am nothing. Now I am nothing.
Hmm. Well, let's go to the next step related question. How about what about somebody who is a female who's got a lot of self-worth, really interested in a career and is really like pushing herself in all these different ways, and she notices that men are attracted to her sexually. Like what advice do you have about her the attention that she applies to her attractiveness, not just sexiness, but her attractiveness. How does a woman take herself seriously and also kind of own the attraction that she has over men?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with people being attracted to you. Like everyone wants people to be attracted to them. I'm not saying that like men being attracted to you is a bad thing. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that if that's the only thing and it's because you're being
Yeah,
objectified or because you're self-objectifying and that's all you have
yeah.
and there's nothing else and that's your all of your self-esteem is based in that and all of your self-worth is based in your body and that kind of male attention, then you are going to end up kind of feeling bad and not building sort of long-term self-esteem.
Well, what I'm
Um,
trying to carve out is like a middle ground between people, young women who don't know how to handle the attraction that they get from men, and how they have to develop their ownership of how they are attractive to men, like, and who would try to run away from that by dumbing that down or being scared of that kind of attention, as opposed to people who just completely latch onto their sexuality as a way to gain worth. How is there not a middle ground where we can be comfortable with the ways that we attract other people? And that's what I'm kind of asking, like, if you have any advice to women who would end up maybe even wanting to become men in a transgender sense because they don't know how to deal with the fact that they are attracted or are gaining the attraction of men. And
like
I'm
there
not
being
just
a
not just objectification, but just not knowing how uh, to have that as a part of who they are. Like being attractive is something is just a part of who you are.
like they're being objectified and they don't want to be objectified, or men are attracted to them and they don't want men to be attracted
Yeah,
to them.
yeah. I don't want to go down the objectification route, but just like something milder. Like, because I see there's a contingent of young women who are using trans ideology to run away from like being uncomfortable with
But
men's
that does
attention.
have to do with objectification, I think, because I think that what's
Hmm.
happening is that a lot of girls are going through puberty and then suddenly being sexualized and objectified by, like grown men. And that
Okay.
is a kind of gross, scary feeling. And,
Okay.
all of us, all women who've gone through puberty have experienced that
Okay.
suddenly, like, boys are looking at you and evaluating your body, and men are ogling you and being gross to you and coming on to you. And so it makes total sense to me that lots of girls would go through that process and be like, ugh, I don't want this body. I don't want to be
Hmm.
treated like this. I don't want to be looked at that. So I do think that does have to do with objectification.
Okay. Okay.
And I mean, I don't know that there's that much that girls can do about it. I mean, in that, you mean I can't force men to behave in a certain way, but the onus is kind of on men to not treat girls like that because you can't stop a man from recognizing that you're female and you're developing a female body and then
Hmm.
him sexualizing you on that basis.
Hmm. Hmm. But how do what advice do you have, or do you remember like entering into that phase, and what was that like for you? And then how did you cope with that? And kind of, I wonder if there's a way to, without diminishing your critique that men need to learn how to not behave in that way, how does a woman grow strong enough to kind of own that in a way, in a healthy way?
Well,
Is
I
that
mean, I
even
don't know that
possible?
I dealt with it in a healthy way at all times. Like I remember when I was like in grade 6 kind of like marching off to the principal's office because we would go to the pool and the boys were like rating girls' bodies while they would get up on the diving board. And I was really mad. And I went off to the principal's office to complain about, sexual harassment essentially. And then,
Hmm.
I don't know, I mean, I had all sorts of body issues. Like when I started high school in grade 8 in Vancouver, that's when high school starts. I was like super, super skinny and super self-conscious of my body. So I would
Yeah.
just wear like all my dad's clothes. It was also grunge, so it was also like trendy to wear your dad's clothes. And my dad was quite thin also. But I totally would like I would just wear layers. Like I would wear like tights under my pants because I thought I was too skinny, and I would wear like long johns under my like big old t-shirts that were my
Just to
dad's and my
fill yourself
dad's
out
shirt.
somehow?
Yeah, to try to make
Huh.
myself look like fatter or
Yeah.
curvier or whatever. And then eventually, like, and when I stopped being so skinny and started like developing a woman's body when I was older, then I was just really stoked because I was like, look at all this attention I'm getting all of a sudden. I'm gonna start wearing only mini skirts and mesh shirts
Oh, interesting. Okay.
and
Okay.
like go wear tank tops all winter long. And then I went through that phase for a long time and eventually was like, oh, this doesn't really feel that good. Like, this is what I was saying before. Like, this isn't positive attention. It's like I felt like I had some sense of control because I was like, oh, I can get any man. All these men are paying attention to me. Like, I can have any man I want. But
Yeah.
so, like, any man you want for the night, like
Yeah.
any man who thinks that you're a dummy. And I knew that I wasn't a dummy and I was being treated like a dummy. And I was like,
Hmm.
fuck this. So then I developed a better personality and I developed more like legit relationships with men and engaged with men like as friends and in different ways and didn't just see them as some kind of like, something that
Resource of
could
attention.
validate me or like
Yeah.
not a resource even. It wasn't like I was trying to get money out of them, but just
Well,
it was a
validation.
source of attention. Like I
Yeah.
wanted that kind of attention and I wanted to feel like it felt powerful temporarily. And eventually I
Yeah.
realized that it wasn't real, genuine power and there was no respect that came along with it. And it wasn't doing anything for my self-esteem. And what did do something for my self-esteem was being comfortable with myself. Just getting older,
Yeah.
also, you get older and you become more confident and you know
Yeah.
yourself better and you're good at things and you feel like an intelligent person. And then I, knew that I was smarter than most men at a certain point. So it helps and doesn't help because then you have to date a lot of dummies. Alas, it's true.
Alas.
It just
Um,
like it makes your dating pool a lot smaller.
yeah. Yeah. Every requirement makes it much, much more difficult to find the right guy or girl, right person, I guess, right partner, let's just say. What age were you when you kind of let go of that? I don't mean this derogatorily, but I guess using that kind of waifish, trampy kind of thing. What was the period
Mm,
when you started letting that go?
I don't know, maybe like 25, 26.
Oh, you had a long time of having fun. Then.
I had many Halloweens of dressing like a burlesque dancer.
Did you actually?
I'm going out in my underwear.
Did you actually burlesque? Were you
No,
part
I
of
just
like a
I
troupe?
just took advantage of Halloween to go out in my underwear.
You are so trouble.
And
Well then,
then
okay.
I stopped doing that and started wearing pants on Halloween.
Oh wait, how do you? What in what costume is
I'm just
pants
joking.
appropriate?
Well,
Oh,
I don't. I mean, I just started. I kind of hate Halloween, so now I don't really. I don't go out on Halloween all that much, or I just don't dress up.
you're just the woman with the small dog and a bowl of candy.
No, I live in an apartment, so there's no candy or trick-or-treaters.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I'll still go to Halloween parties, I guess. I just don't really wear real costumes. I Anyway,
Okay.
let's
So,
just say I stopped using Halloween as an excuse to go out in my underwear. That's the
so
moral of the
once
story.
you kind of pulled out, once you started investing yourself into other pursuits or other ways of engaging with the opposite sex, your sexuality or your attractiveness integer, though you didn't produce it anymore, that wasn't the thing that you threw out there. It still followed you, and how is it? Can you describe? Does this make sense? How your relationship to your own attractiveness changed as you filled out your personality and started expanding your interests?
Just not based on objectification. Like I'm happy for men to be attracted to me. Like I like male attention. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't. It's just that
Hmm.
I don't need the kind of attention of like some man staring at me as I walk down the street. Like I if I go out to the bar, like I talk to men and men like me, but it's part of a conversation. Like we're
Hmm.
having a
Okay.
conversation and we're getting along and or like flirting or whatever it is, but it's not
Hmm.
like, oh, check out my body parts,
Yeah. Yeah.
what I keep trying to tell you, I'm like, I have a really good personality. And you aren't you're not picking up on that. You're like, what is it? I'm like, I'm fun. I am a
No.
fun lady to hang out with.
Are you saying that I treat you like you don't have a personality? Is that what you're saying? Because I
No,
wouldn't
you
have
just
you
keep,
back
I feel
on.
like you're trying to, like, you're pushing at this question that I don't know how to answer because
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
like, well, how do you deal? And it's like, well, I'm not being objectified in the same way. And it doesn't mean that I don't get male attention. It's just a different kind of male
Yeah.
attention
Okay.
and a kind of male attention that I like and that doesn't bother me because I'm a human being and he's a human being and
Yeah.
we're having a conversation, we're getting along. It's not just like some dude being like, "Oh, I can almost see her ass. Like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go yell at her, talk to her, try to have sex with her or whatever."
Yeah.
And I'm not like when you're younger, like I was, when I was like 19, I was interested in having one night stands. So I guess that I did achieve what I thought I wanted at that time
Hmm.
by not wearing very many clothes and wanting to hook up or whatever. Like I have zero interest in having one night stands as
Yeah.
an adult.
Yeah.
Like I'm not interested in hooking up with people that I don't know or hooking up with somebody just for one night. I'm interested in, having relationships with people, whatever those relationships look like, whether they're friends and whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to get too far into
No,
this,
no,
but
I yeah,
in
yeah.
general, I'm interested in having a relationship with another person. I'm not interested in just having some kind of temporary form of validation or attention.
Yeah. I wasn't my whole aim with that line of questioning was just to get you to express for anybody who might come across this uh, the progression that you experienced as you matured as a human being and
I just
just
started to like myself. You know what I mean? You are comfortable with yourself and you like yourself and you respect yourself.
huh. Well, that's interesting. What's the difference between liking yourself? How did you learn to like yourself, and did that come hand in hand with you learning how to respect yourself?
I think that I don't think this is just true for women. I kind of think that all people who are like 19 or 20 don't really know themselves very well and aren't very comfortable with themselves
Hmm.
and probably feel insecure and are trying to seek out some kind of personality or meaning or trying to find something about them that's special or, trying to be interesting. And the reality is that they're not interesting because they're 19 years old. So you have another 10 years to go before you become an interesting person that other people should waste their time talking to.
Yeah. Huh.
It's just mature. It's just becoming a mature adult and sort of and learning things about life. And you become wiser as you get older and you become more interesting because you've had experiences and you've gone through hard times and you've, read some books, hopefully, and you're educated and you have interests and hobbies and passions and like and for women of course for women the difference is that they've been told their whole lives that their primary source of validation is their physical attractiveness and their ability to be sexually objectified, so we
Hmm.
sort of have to wrestle with that as well. But I
Hmm.
think generally for most people you're sort of struggling to find yourself when you're young, and that's just not a very attractive quality.
In this
You don't know
phase,
yourself.
yeah, in this phase of your career as a human being, uh, have you found yourself interacting with 20-year-olds, that generation, and kind of seeing what they're going through and trying to hone your message into a way or try to provide them a platform where they can kind of ease into maturity in a more self-respecting fashion?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of young women who are, passionate about radical feminism and who are like smart, and trying to make a difference and trying to participate in supporting women. But, well, not lots, but there are some. And I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I find 20-year-olds mostly like very irritating. So no, I don't like go and talk to 20-year-olds all the time. But like I do
Yeah,
talk to young women a lot, and I
yeah.
know lots of like smart young women who are involved in the feminist movement. They're probably not like literally 20. They're probably like 25 or older.
Do
Um,
you notice a different like kind of a generation, not a gap as a negative sense, but like they're kind of dealing with a different set of cultural issues? Have you?
I feel kind of bad for young women these days. Like I feel like they think that everything that have to everything that they do has to go online, and like like things aren't worth doing unless you're putting it on Instagram or whatever, and they plan out all these photo shoots so that it looks like they're having fun and they look cute and they're edited like crazy, and it just seems like their reality is based in this like lie. Like it's all fake, it's all contrived, and it's all put out there for other people to like and validate, and for other people to think that their lives are great, regardless of what their lives are really like. And it just seems like a lot of weird pressure, and there's no private life anymore.
Hmm.
Everything is public.
Hmm.
And it just seems kind of like depressing and empty and fake, and yeah, a lot of pressure to me, especially, and to constantly having to compare yourself all the time to other girls online, and to think your body isn't good enough, or your face isn't pretty enough, or your
Hmm.
life isn't fun enough, or you're not rich enough. Like, I don't know that we had to do that kind of comparing when I was a kid. Like, there wasn't really any
Hmm.
internet to speak of when I was in
Yeah.
high school, and so
So
you
you
would
compared
compare
yourself
yourself
to
to your
somebody you actually
peers.
knew. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and most of them were kind of like me. Like, obviously you have like body issues still, but you're not seeing all these images of your peers online all the time looking like whatever models with incredible lives, and feeling
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be doing that and I should look like this, and I'm not
Yeah.
good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough."
Everybody's now a Cosmo magazine, or you feel like you have to become a Cosmo magazine, which is, I mean, while it's attractive to look at, it's ultimately unfulfilling.
Yeah, and fake. I mean, everybody has flaws and everybody has like a
Hmm.
regular life, really. Nobody's having a great time all the time, and nobody is perfect, and nobody thinks they're perfect.
Yeah. It's interesting about the flaw, your comment about the flaw, where everybody has a flaw. And with young people uploading themselves to the internet now, and with this horrendous culture of going back through people's history of the internet and then slandering them for where they were 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it seems like we're going down the wrong track. We're setting them up for failure in so many ways. They're never going to be able to actually attain perfection in the moment, and then all their flaws are going to be judged for all of time. And because everybody's going to look through all that trying that they did to produce this awesome identity online. And I wonder if there's a attitude towards our flaws that we need to get back to, and really understanding that when we respect ourselves and when we like ourselves, it's not that we embrace our awfulness, but we have a more developed relationship with the parts of us that are imperfect, where we're not worshiping our imperfections, but we're understanding that those are things that we need to engage with over time, and work on, and see how they're going to come up and hold us back in different ways.
Yeah, totally. I mean, where's the room to make mistakes and to change your mind about stuff? Like, it's weird that we expect people to be perfect, not only now, but to have been perfect 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's also a lie. Like, it's like none of these people have perfect thoughts all the time. People think bad things all the time, and it's just that now, like, if these things are online, then you can go back and call somebody out for it or whatever. But like,
Hmm.
it's this expectation of perfection. It's demanding inauthenticity from people, which I think is really shitty. Like, I want real people. I want real people with flaws and who are going to be honest and who are going to, not say every little thing that crosses your mind, but,
Yeah.
like, have honest conversations about what you really think. Like, all of these, like, fake politics, like, it's not believable.
Hmm.
You're not trustworthy. Like, anybody who pretends like they have perfect politics and perfect thoughts online, it's like, I don't believe you at all. Like, and isn't that stressful for you to have to pretend to be this person all the time? Wouldn't it be easier if you were just a real person and you said what you really thought and you had honest conversations with people?
Hmm.
Like, I don't want people to think that I'm perfect, or that I say perfect things all the time, or have perfect thoughts, or that I don't have negative thoughts or mean thoughts. Obviously, people know I have mean thoughts maybe now.
A little
I don't want
mean.
them to think that I'm this really nice, non-judgmental person who never says mean things about anybody.
Well, but also in the last, I guess you've always been doing panels for a while and stuff, but it seems like you've done a spate of panels in the last 6 months or so. You've done quite a few. You've done a lot of traveling. What's it like to be going out there in the real world and participating with people and meeting people? How's that been?
It's awesome. I mean, I really like talking to all sorts of people. Like, and a lot of the talks that I've done or the panels that I've done, there'll be people who come from like really diverse places politically, like who there'll be like men who really don't like feminism or think feminism is a bad thing, or, think that the left is terrible. I mean, I kind of think the left is terrible now too. So, but you know what I mean? Like, and they're really interested in having conversations, and they're not rude or
Hmm.
disrespectful, but they would be pushed into a particular box online, right? Like there's certain trigger phrases or trigger words that if you say them, it's like, you're an MRA, therefore you're evil and you're bad, and I'm not going to talk to you. You're dangerous, you're harmful.
Hmm.
But I mean, if you talk to most people in real life, most people in real life are pretty nice and reasonable. You just have to actually talk to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, beyond that, like I also, I talk to lots of feminists and lots of women all around the world. And women, when I was in the UK, one woman in Scotland came up to me and she was like, "Oh, I really like what you're doing with your YouTube channel because I've been really frustrated about these like limited insular conversations that are happening where like you can't even say anything nice about, Jordan Peterson." I'm just saying Jordan Peterson because he's, well, it's not like I'm not a huge Jordan Peterson fan, but I do think some things he says are interesting and other things he says are nonsensical or weird. But like he's sort of been painted by the left and by a lot of feminists as this dangerous, harmful man. I'm like, he's not dangerous and harmful. God, like he's just, you know, he's.
Opinionated and
Uh,
charismatic.
I don't think he's charismatic at all.
Really? Have you seen him
Uh,
on stage speaking to
he's
3,000
so
people?
angry all the time.
Well,
Like,
that's charisma for you.
oh, I feel I've always felt a bit like sort of baffled by his fame, just in terms of the fact that it's like he just seems grouchy so much.
He is
Like
like Kermit the Frog, Oscar the Grouch, like combined, like this weird
mhm.
mythological.
But not just that, but even guys, like it's like even if you say like I think that women in feminism might be worried to say that they like to listen to, Dave Rubin or Sam Harris or Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson or, you know, you or like and there's lots of people who want to be having broader conversations in general that are sort of afraid to because of that guilt by association
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
because your group isn't going to like it and they're going to wonder if you're kind of straying from the pack.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they sort of have these conversations privately with people that they know they can talk to about it, but publicly it's dangerous to say like, "Oh, I thought that this thing that so and so said was interesting," because it isn't necessarily a feminist thing, or it isn't necessarily whatever a leftist thing, or whatever group. I'm talking about feminism because I'm a
Yeah.
part of the feminist movement and I engage with feminism a lot, so I don't want to be painting feminists as so terrible in this regard. Like this happens in all sorts of groups, but in general, I'm really frustrated by the lack of, wanting to reach out and wanting to talk to different kinds of people and wanting to learn from those people and trying to understand them, as though like we'll be tainted if we start to understand or have some empathy for those people's opinions and perspectives.
Have you been in the position of the people who are afraid to talk to the other side at some point?
Like people not wanting to talk to me, or
You like kind of like I don't want to talk to that MRA guy. Like I don't want to have a conversation with. I just want to know, like, if you were at that point, what was it that got you to transition to being more open? That's basically what I'm asking.
oh, like like was I at some point not wanting to engage with certain groups of people?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Um, I guess partly just talking to different kinds of people and being interested in that. And I guess also kind of intellectual boredom. Like I didn't want to be just preaching to the choir all the time or having the same conversations over and over and over again with people who already agreed.
Hmm.
I wanted to, challenge my own ideas and I mean, I think, I mean, I always have, like, I like talking to people. I always have. Like, I'm interested in other people and I like, talking to whoever and learning about them. And it doesn't necessarily make me mad to talk to people who don't agree with me. Like, I'm happy to have conversations with people that I disagree with. It doesn't piss me off, necessarily. But I mean, part of it was probably all this stuff that happened to me with Twitter, because all of a sudden all these people were reaching out to me, right? So people
Yeah.
that I hadn't talked to before were reaching out to me, like people who didn't like feminism, or people who
Yeah.
were right wing, or people who were libertarians, or people who were, men's rights activists, or whatever you want to call them, or just, people who were interested in free speech. And all these people that I'd never engaged with before and would have never engaged with me, or would have never engaged with somebody like me, they were wanting to talk to me, and we were having all these like really good conversations, and I really liked these people a lot.
Yeah.
Even if we didn't even agree on anything, barely, I still liked them and I enjoyed talking to them. And I was like, oh, I want to keep doing this, and I find it useful. Like I want to understand why people don't like feminism, or why they think that they don't like feminism,
Yeah.
or I want to understand where people are coming from
Have you
in
thought
general.
about a way in which feminism can change in order to kind of change its reputation? Since it seems like you're coming into contact with people who have a negative view of feminism. Have you thought about ways of uh, presenting feminism that's more accessible to people?
Well, I think mostly it's about not vilifying people who disagree with us. So it's not saying just because you don't agree that means you're a misogynist or like a shitty person. Some people are misogynists, some people are shitty, but just because they don't already know what we know, or they don't already feel the same way that we feel about certain things, doesn't make somebody an enemy necessarily.
Mm-hmm. And
And tearing people apart online certainly isn't a good way to go about changing people's mind. And I don't think very many feminists that I know and work with necessarily do that, but I certainly see that happening on Twitter a lot, where women who consider themselves feminists, I mean leftists do it too, all sorts of people do it, think that the best way to like, I don't know, I assume they think the best way to like change people's minds or change the world is by abusing and harassing people who don't agree with them. But I mean, that doesn't seem like a very successful route towards getting people on side.
no. Well, the goal, I guess, isn't to win the war; it's to win the battle. It seems like a very short-term tactic in a way. And
Yeah.
it made me think like your transition from I guess interacting with men as a metaphor, your interaction with men as a young girl, like through the auspices of your attraction, and the way that you presented yourself as somebody to be attractive, and then you got in the circuit of exchanging attraction with men, and then your development into I want to be in a conversation level relationship with the world. And it seems like there's a further development, and not just for you, but I think that what you're describing, or what we're describing here, is like that there's these different stages of development that once we go from like a pure kind of lustful engagement, youthful, lustful engagement with the world. We want to be more intellectual. And in order to be more intellectual, we really need to dive into one group and really study one thing. But eventually we need to move on from that one tribe that we've gotten not there's neutral words not coming to mind, but our path of study eventually needs to open up into bringing what we learned by focusing on that one thing with those set of people into moving on to a more universalist kind of, now I get to go out into the world and have conversations with all these other people who went on a completely different path. It seems
Mm.
like what we've been describing is like going from a very small being to like a successively bigger and bigger and bigger being, and one of the rungs of your own development was going through feminism. And it seems like now that you've gone through feminist, you're almost a post-feminist in a way. You're somebody who's armed with the tools and the insights that feminism gave you, but now you're looking for other insights, and you're able, by that willingness to engage, to share insights with other people, and have the possibility to even increase what feminism is at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully, like talking to other people about, well, feminism, about things that I think are harmful to women, and
Yeah.
them sort of understanding where I'm coming from will, you know, like help them to understand where I'm coming from, and help them to understand why, there is validity to certain aspects of the feminist movement.
Mm-hmm.
And not just to treat feminism based on what they're seeing on Twitter or whatever. I mean, the other thing that I want to say about that is that I realized, I was like, well, I don't want to be a hypocrite, because I was criticizing these mantras that I was seeing in third wave feminism, including things like sex work is work and trans women are women and things like that, that I disagreed with, but that, a lot of young women just repeat over and over and over again without really thinking about what that means.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I guess there's some mantras in other aspects of feminism that go unquestioned. And I want to think about those mantras and
Hmm.
whether or not I really agree with them or whether or not they really hold meaning, and sort of interrogate that and stop sort of using terms and words that I guess are sort of terms and words and phrases that have been said so many times over that they've lost meaning and that people just react to now.
Yeah.
Even words like patriarchy, right? Like, I don't know if that actually holds any meaning to people. And you realize when you start talking to people out in the world, you're like, oh, most people don't really understand what that means, or they don't care, or it pisses them off. And so I was like, oh, I want to find different ways to talk about that. And if you're trying to find different ways to talk about that, you sort of need to try to interrogate what you're really saying,
Hmm.
what the message is, and what's really happening. And yeah, and I was obviously frustrated that people wouldn't talk to me and people were treating me like a pariah and like they were gonna get like, you know, get some kind of like disease by talking to me, like they're, you know, like not pure anymore, right? And I was like, well, I shouldn't treat other people like that if I don't want people to treat me like that.
Yeah. It's
So there's lots of things.
that image of breaking down the mantras. That's a necessary step in the development of a human being. Like you go through and you get to that step where you're a master of that discipline, and you've accepted the axioms, the basic tenets, in order to understand its whole critique. And then in order to really master it, you have to really break the whole thing down. And the process of breaking that discipline down, whether it's a religion or it's feminism or whatever thing that you're doing, once you initiate the breaking things down, you start to piss off all the people who are your friends because they're not ready to go that next step. And they see you being an iconoclast or being somebody who's desecrating the temple because you're actually breaking those things down to give them new life or to see if where their relevance is, because you want to go outside of the temple. You want to move on to that next stage. And I think that we've gotten painted ourselves into a corner where we expect people to believe the right things in order for us to identify them as believing the right things, and not really looking under the hood of what is belief or what is the process of feminism. Like you say, just rights for women. Like even your language now is changing. We've had a discussion. I think our first one was about 8 months ago, probably in September. And like I've seen you develop and get more plastic with your language and be able to interact with terms and say, well, that means that term patriarchy means something to me because I understand it, but what does that mean to anybody else? I need a new tool set. And now that you're engaging with it in this way, you're really opening it up, and I think helping your ultimately your goal of women being respected by men, if I may just encapsulate it for the time being, is now able to reach more and more men, because now you're seen as not just this, feminist. You're breaking the label down for yourself, and you're breaking it for other people. You're smashing through that to the other side. I think it's a wonderful thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that like, yeah, I really just think that talking to other people like they're human beings really helps a lot, and not coming at everything from a combative stance, like coming at it. I'm not saying that I'm perfect at doing this all the time, but trying to, like understand,
Neither am
try,
I. Neither am I.
trying to understand where people are coming from and treating them with respect, and sort of, I mean, when you talk to men who really don't like feminism, it's easy to understand where they're coming from, because they've either engaged with a certain kind of feminism, or they've felt insulted or hurt or attacked by feminism or a feminist, or by women, or they've just often it seems to me like they've been only talking to other men who already agree with them. So they're doing the same thing that these other
Yeah.
groups are
Okay.
doing, right? So
Yeah.
they're not
Okay.
actually talking to feminists in real life necessarily. They're just talking to each other about what feminism is and why feminism is bad. And so we have
Yeah.
all these little groups who like hate each other or think they hate each other because they're not engaging, and when they do engage, it's online, so it's performative. Like you can't show any weakness, right?
Hmm.
So they're like, you suck and you're wrong and I'm right, and then the other side says the same. But if you sit down and have a conversation with somebody at the bar, just face to face in a room, it doesn't usually go like that.
You keep on coming back to the bar.
I love the bar. I do love the bar. I know. Okay. Right. I mean, that's just like where I socialize a lot of the time. And you know what I really liked about the UK in comparison to North America is that after all of the events, everybody goes to the pub together. Everybody from like 20-year-olds to like 70-year-olds, and
Huh.
everybody gets drunk and talks and has a good time and
Wow.
party. And we don't do that. Well, we specifically don't do that in Vancouver. Like if you the Vancouver's bar scene is very youth
Right.
centric, first of all.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah. It's not
it's a lot
cozy.
of people the exact same age. And then also just the way that the bars are set up. Thank you for giving me this platform to complain about Vancouver bars. I really appreciate it. This is my next activist
Yeah.
endeavor. Like the way that the liquor licenses work in Vancouver is that in most bars or like bars or lounges or whatever, everybody has to be sitting down. So it forces you not to be able to socialize with everybody else because you can't kind of stand around and hang out. Like you have to have a seat, and that
Wait,
means you
hold
have to
on.
be sitting at the table with people that you already know, which I hate because I want to go to the bar and I want to meet people and I want to talk to people and I want to sit at the bar and talk to people who's next to me and wander around and meet other people. And you can't do that in most bars because of the way the liquor licenses are set up.
So Canadian law doesn't trust people to be able to walk and drink at the same time,
Yeah,
like
I don't know what the basis for it is, but I guess I mean it's they don't want people to have any fun, that's for sure. Like maybe it's about not packing too many people into the space or something like that, or but really maybe just not having fun. Like they want them to get tired and bored of sitting across from the table from their friends so that they can get them out and get new people in and make more money. Who knows?
hmm.
But so there's only like a few bars in Vancouver where you can kind of stand around and social, and it does feel kind of cozy and everybody's all in it together and you're not just only limited to talking to the person right across from you. So you do kind of meet a wide variety of people, which I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, there's this weird kind of age limit thing where you don't see a lot of people over 40 at the bar. So
Where
you're
do the
just,
40-year-olds go to
I don't know, I think they
imbibe?
have to stay home. I
Huh.
think it's so lame. Like I'm gonna have to move in like a year.
Where are you gonna move? To UK?
The UK.
Okay.
I really did when I was like, I don't want to go home. It's so much more fun here. I do kind of want to move over there. And some people offered me some places to live, so
Hmm. You can
but
run your empire from over there. Hopefully, the British pound stays strong.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I did like the social culture and the culture in general a lot more than Vancouver.
Are you going back and forth between vodka and chamomile tea? Is this some sort of weird 40-year-old speedball that you're running?
No, well, this is water,
Oh,
and
the water's in the mug. You keep your water in the mug, and then what's in the glass?
why can't I put water in a mug? Okay, okay. So this is water, and then this one. Well, I guess it is vodka, but it's this thing.
Oh,
I hope.
you're so pure.
Can I become an ambassador? Well, I don't have any prosecco, so these have
Pure.
zero. This has no sugar or carbs, and in
Can you
Vancouver
pronounce
we
it
don't
for
eat
the people at
sugar or
home?
carbs. I don't know. I've never bought this kind before. I usually buy another one, which is called they're called neutrals or nudes. But this is a new popular thing in Vancouver. Do they have this in the
I
States? It's
wouldn't
like
know.
it's a vodka soda in a can.
Yeah, I have my Fremont beer.
Oh,
Vodka soda.
okay.
Interesting.
Too many carbs.
Okay, so let's
You
wrap
guys
it
are
up.
still eating carbs in America.
Let's wrap it up with health advice from Megan Murphy. What's your
Okay. No carbs.
no or low?
No carbs.
No?
You should bacon every day. Do you want to know what I eat every day?
Yeah,
I
let's
don't
go
want to
through
tell
that.
people because they're gonna think I'm a
Well, you
weirdo.
you open this with like being like wide open, like there's no secrets with Megan Murphy.
There are lots of
Bacon?
secrets with Megan Murphy.
Okay, there we go. I
That's
figured
why I'm
out
trying
where
to like
you're
ease
sensitive.
people into my secrets so that when they find them out, I'll be like, "Yeah, I tried to tell you."
So you just run around with like bacon and vodka all the time and like a mug of water for some reason?
I drink a lot of red wine.
This is the weirdest health advice on record.
Bacon, red wine, these vodka soda things. If you're gonna drink like 10 drinks at once, 'cause you don't want to drink like 10 glasses of wine at once. That's way too much sugar, and you'll have a
That sounds
terrible
right.
hangover.
Yeah. Sugar is a carb and wine is a carb. So you
I
said
know. So that's what I'm saying. If you're gonna drink like if you're gonna like go on a bender, then you
Okay.
should stick with these neutrals. But if you're just at home and you're just going to have a glass of wine, then
Okay.
I mean, I would never give up red wine because I love red wine.
Are you saying that we're on a bender now because you're drinking your
No, we're not on
pure?
a bender. I'm like, have had like half of the can this whole time.
Okay.
Like, I'm okay.
Well, what's
I
your
have to go
favorite
to the pool
exercise
later.
regimen then?
Okay, well, I've been lifting weights actually.
Ooh, how big are you up to now?
I don't know. My trainer keeps track. So no, but it's actually awesome. I started lifting weights because my friend Erin is a trainer and she was like, "Come, it'll be fun." And I was like, "Okay, sure, I guess." And excuse me. Um, and yeah, so I'm doing like bench press and like squats and all this stuff. And I was like so stoked at like how like you start to feel strong like so quickly. Like your like whole body changes and
Huh.
you're getting like muscles and stuff. And not that this is the only point, but I think that weightlifting is actually the best way to lose weight. Like I think that first of all, I hate cardio, so I will say anything bad about cardio that I possibly can. But I don't really think that does that much. If you're trying to lose weight, I think it's about like building muscle because it like has a better impact on your metabolism.
Okay,
I
but
do that, and then I also go to the pool and swim lengths, mostly because I like it. But that's like a sort of decent form of exercise that isn't hard on an aging body.
oh yeah, yeah. Well,
I
but
had knees, so I can't do things that hurt my knees, like
what
run.
what advice do you have for people who are scared of all the body fluids in a public pool?
You just have to not think about
Okay, it's
it.
like
Like,
willful ignorance.
I mean, there's yeah, and you just I just like the pool and I'm a good swimmer and I've always been a swimmer, so that's what I do. And I mean, there's not that many forms of exercise that I like, so you kind
Yeah,
of have to like go with what like I'm not gonna go to the gym because I hate the gym
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I can't run, but I also hate running and I
yeah.
don't know what else is there. Paddle boarding. Those people are clearly douchebags.
We're retirees.
What do you do?
I don't do anything. I don't
You
do
don't do
anything.
anything at all?
I don't do anything at all.
You just have fast metabolism. There's a
I
lot of men like that I find who just have fast metabolism
oh,
forever and they don't have
it's
to
all
do
the
anything.
strip clubs that I go to. I'm wicked on that pole thing. I can spin on that thing like nobody's business. You know, I'm
Well,
Magic Mike.
hopefully
You know.
that's good exercise.
No,
So,
it's great. You know, I can suspend myself just like some sort of Jedi mind trick. I'm just like up there spinning around my little
yeah.
Harry Potter, my slutty Potter costume. You know, just going down it. No,
Gross.
I'm trying to
This
give
is
you images.
degrading into grossness.
It's not degrading at all. Like I feel empowered by the whole thing. You know,
Of
I get
course.
like
You're like,
sometimes
but
I get a
I feel
quarter.
like a sexy, empowered Harry Potter type character.
Expelloramus.
Yeah. So, yeah, I stick to a straight low carb diet during the week where I can. Look, and then on the weekends, I either eat a bunch of bar food or just drink.
Okay. What's next on your plate then? Where are you going next? What's your next talk?
Well, I'm trying to not go anywhere because I
Okay.
felt like I was traveling too much and I find it tiring. So I am I'm going to the Mines conference in New Jersey at the end of August.
Okay.
Do you know about this?
No. Minds.com?
I'll send you a link. Yeah. So Minds, like the social media site Minds, is putting on a conference and they're having a bunch of people on panels, many of whom you probably know, like people
Yeah.
who are interested in things like free speech and stuff like that. Lots of like YouTubers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Like Tim Pool is
Yeah.
involved. And I'm trying to say no to everything I can until then, just because I haven't had any time to get any work done and I'm behind on everything and it's hard to catch up.
Are you
So
talking about your lawsuit or you writing a book
just
or
like my work, like yeah, my book and the website and my own writing, I don't have time to write. I feel too
yeah.
busy and that's frustrating because I'm supposed to be a writer and that's what I actually enjoy doing and that's what
Yeah.
makes me feel like good and fulfilled in my life and I don't have time to do it. So I need to try to like carve out time for that.
How's Feminist Current going? Your
Good. But
website.
that's what keeps me busy too, right? I mean, that takes up a lot of time running that site, and I spend a lot of time editing other people's work, which is really great because I want to, provide a platform for other people's writing. But I spend all of my time editing
Yeah.
and doing admin work and answering emails and stuff like that, and no time doing my own work or
Yeah.
my own writing or anything. So I'm trying to figure out how to find a balance in that regard.
There you go. Well, and you're strong, and you're taking a break.
Well, I'm taking a break from trying to I'm trying to not say yes to everything, which is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no to things, and I want to say yes to everything, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn how to say no to some things.
And even when you say no, people think you're saying yes. So, sorry.
Classic.
I had to go there. I had to go there.
Of course. Of course.
We should wrap up, though, and let the people know. Do you have any last advice or insight?
Oh my God. Don't be a faker.
No haters, no fakers.
Try to be honest. Try not to base your politics on virtue signaling online and saying what your friends want you to say and hating the people that your friends say you should hate. Don't abandon people because they are asking difficult questions or challenging popular dogma. This is something I'm very frustrated with these days also, is, seeing the small circle of Vancouver people trashing me in particular. I'm like, you don't even know what the fuck you're mad about. You're just like, it's like, well, my friend said she's bad, so I guess she's bad.
Yeah.
That
really
kind of bullshit. I think
Do you have
people need to
posters
be
popping
better.
up with your name on it?
It's more just social media stuff, I would say. And it's all fake, right? Like, it's all people who are trying to impress their friends or not get in trouble with their friends. But also it's like people, hating on my politics or what I'm doing without really knowing what it is I'm doing, or without really engaging in it with a critical mind, and people demanding that their friends like unfriend certain people and that kind of thing. Like, it's all bullies bullying other bullies, and it's so strange.
Yeah, we're in the era of the bully.
Totally.
We need to.
Like, what kind of adult demands that you unfriend people because you don't like them or you don't like their politics? I'm like, are you in high school? Are you actually 35 years old? And you're like, why are you friends with this person on Facebook? Like, you fucking child. And people do it too. They get freaked out and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
what's going to happen to my tiny circle of nobodies?
The era of the bully is, in fact, the era of the coward. It's not the bully's fault that everybody's bowing down to them.
Yeah. I know, it is cowardly. It's just, it's not wanting to, it's a fear of conflict and a fear of having to, have difficult conversations, or maybe have your friends be mad at you, or maybe have somebody disagree with you, like, which is so strange to me, because it's not that scary to disagree. And that thing, I think, is specific to Canada, maybe in the States too, but that's a difference that I found in the UK too, is that I feel like people are way more comfortable with conflict and argument and disagreement.
No, we're not.
Canada.
No, I didn't pull that off, right? I'm too agreeable. I'm the agreeable contrarian.
Yeah, that's what you got in trouble from. I think the first time that we did a video is that you were being too agreeable and you weren't
nice.
like confronting me enough.
Yeah, I knew I'd win you over.
You didn't win me over. I think that I won you over, and you realized that I was right.
No. I think we met in the middle, and we both overcame our scaredness of disagreeing. You've never been afraid of disagreeing with anyone. Yeah. You had hot pants when you were a teen, and now you have mom pants, but they're very disagreeable mom pants in your 40s. I'm sorry.
They're not mom pants. Okay. They're just pants.
Okay.
As opposed to underwear.
Halloween pants. I don't even know what that means. Like, you dress up as Napoleon and you have like Halloween pants.
I stopped going out in my underwear. Like, that's like a joke in Mean Girls, isn't it? Like, where like the girls all just use Halloween as an excuse to dress slutty.
Yeah. Slutty. I have to go.
I don't need that attention. Alrighty. Okay. Good to talk to you.
Thanks so much for your time. Let's do this again, especially before you move. We should have a meetup in Vancouver with our mutual enemies, our friends.
Yes, we should come to Vancouver and we'll go to like the one non-shitty bar.
Okay, so there is one non-shitty bar.
There's a couple of bars that I like in Vancouver.
Okay.
There's just a lot of lame bars.
And you still have friends.
Yes, I still have
Okay,
friends.
there we go. Then we can. I think I have friends up in Vancouver too, and then we can like pool our friends together. Probably have nothing in common, but
Well, they're human. That's
uh,
something.
okay. That's the beginning. That's the baseline for drinking at a Canadian bar.
Yeah, yeah. Come on out.
All right,
That'll be fun.
all right. Wait, hold
And
on. I'm gonna kick everybody off. See you guys. Can you say goodbye to the people in the world?
bye. Thank you for joining.
There we go, and then we end broadcast. All right, I think we're done. Hey.